Okay, so we've got the awesome T6.1 transporter van in, which we're currently converting to be one of the next campers on the site. This thing is going to be absolutely stunning. So we're at the stage where we are replacing the suspension. So we've bought some new Bilstein B14 Comfort suspension struts. Now these top of their game on the market. The clue's in the name, the Comfort suspension system. So Will's going to be doing the swap over on this today. The van's only done a couple of thousand miles. However, we're going to swap it out so you've got a much nicer ride on this beautiful camper. So, Will, what have we done? We've got a new 30mm 12-point socket. 12-point. Do you want to explain where we're going from there?
Basically, on this one, we're going to take the whole hub off. So, obviously, taking the ABS sensors out just to make sure that they don't break when we remove the hub. Undo the bottom ball joint, tip drive shaft out, but leave it in there loose. Obviously, crack off the strut bolts, and then we'll take the strut out separately.
If you're doing this on your driveway or on jacks and don't have access to powerful impact gun, before getting the vehicle off the ground, crack off the 30mm 12-point drive shaft retaining bolt, but no more than 180 degrees. Once you've removed the wheel and got the van off the ground, remove the brake line and ABS sensor wire from the clips in the strut. Disconnect the ABS sensor from the hub to protect it. When that's done, remove the 18mm nut from the drop link and pull that away from the strut. Remove the nut from the drive shaft and gently tap the end of it to free it off the hub. If you leave the drive shaft in place, you run the risk of popping the drive shaft out of the CV joints when you move the hub later on. Remove the nut from the track rod end and tap the hub next to it to free it up, then remove that. After that, remove the two M12 multi-spline joints from the bottom ball joint into the hub. That saves you worrying about separating the ball joint from the lower arm. Now that's the hub freed up, remove the two 21mm bolts through the strut clamp. Removing the strut from the knuckle is one of the most arduous parts of this job. There is a tool made to open the clamp up, which will make life a lot easier. Here we're holding the clamp open with a small chisel underneath, which also works just as well. Once the strut is clear of the hub, grab someone to give you a quick hand holding the strut as you remove the top mount, then remove the whole strut. Next up, get your spring compressors and remove the top mount from the strut. Gently release the compressors and pull the spring and strut to one side. All you need from this is the top mount. Put the new spring into the spring compressors and fit the strut and top mount. Now it's ready to be refitted. Set the desired height whilst the strut is out of the vehicle. It makes life a lot easier, only having to make one small adjustment when they're fitted. Refitting the front springs is the reverse of removing them. Start with putting the top mounts back through and getting mounted in place. Next up, seat the bottom of the strut in the top of the knuckle. The B14s have a locating tab to sit in the center of the hub clamp. That gives you an idea of how far you need to tap it in, as when it's fully in, that will line up with the top bolt hole to act as another safety in stopping that strut from moving. You'll need to hold the clamp open again to drop the strut in, and it will require some persuasion. Once the locating tab lines up with the top hole, you are done. Refit the two 21mm bolts going through the strut clamp. Line up the drive shafts on the splines and put that back through the hub. Refit the bottom ball joint to the hub and tighten down. Then reattach the track rod end, then put the nut back onto the drive shaft. Reattach the drop link to the struts. This may take a bit of effort and some leverage to get it back in, as once the van is lowered, everything tends to get a bit stiffer. Put the ABS sensor back into the hub and reclip the wire and brake hose into the hub. After that, all that's left to do is refit the wheel and torque everything down. The torque spec for the drive shaft nut is 200 Newton meters. Now we'll move on to the rear. This is much easier and shouldn't take you too long at all. Once you've removed the wheel, get some support under the rear arm and remove the 21mm bottom shock bolt to free the lower arm up. Once that's free, you should be able to remove the old spring. Remove the 21mm top shock bolt. It's in quite a tight space, but there is enough space to get a ratchet and a socket in. Drop the shock out and put the new shock in at the top. Leave it slightly loose to give enough movement to fit the bottom back on. Fit the new spring and adjuster. When you remove the old spring, the original top mount should come out with it. You don't need to keep this as the kit comes with a new rubber spacer and the top mount won't sit properly on the adjuster. Set the height on the adjuster before fitting, as getting the coilover spanners into that top cavity will be a challenge. Once the spring is in, push the lower arm back up and line up the bottom shock. Refit the bolt, then tighten the top and bottom bolts down, refit the wheel and enjoy your new lows.